Okay, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Let's take a look at this video, and I want to talk about when I was in elementary school, how I was bullied in school and what happened. Referring to the KarmeloAnthony case, it blows my mind how people think, well, he should have gone to the coach, to the teacher. Maybe he should have just stood there and let the guy just pounce on him. But sometimes bullying goes wrong. So, parents, if you're raising a bully and you think that's cute, guess what? Every bully has its day, and you never know how the other person may be in fear, how they're going to react. Because guess what? You might think that mess is cute. Sometimes it might be your last. So, look up here. Here's the guy that's been labeled as a bully. Let's go ahead and listen to what they have to say about him, the high school bully here, okay? Listen to what they have to say about
This
him.
high school bully just beat another kid to death and then bragged about it in front of his friends. Basically, a 17-year-old football player named Taylor Ryder was at a party when one of his fellow bully friends, Dominic, suddenly stole another kid's gold chain. However, one of his kid's friends, Preston Lord, immediately demanded that Dominic return it. When Dominic refused to, a massive argument quickly broke out, and that was when the football player, Taylor, stepped in and simply punched Preston in the face. This instantly sparked a fight between Taylor and Preston, but since Taylor was a lot stronger, he eventually had Preston on the ground. Then, at least 7 other kids came in and just began repeatedly kicking him. Even when it was clear that Preston had been fatally injured, these attackers didn't stop and actually just began dancing on his body. It was only when the police were finally called that everyone ran away. But that still didn't stop Taylor from going on his Snapchat and texting a friend, "I got in a fight and accidentally killed a kid. I guess I'm just too strong." When Taylor's parents found out about this incident, they quickly tried to cover up his involvement and even tried to help Taylor flee to Mexico. But luckily, 7 of the students involved in the attack, including Taylor, have just been charged with first-degree murder and will hopefully face prison time. So this high school bully just beat another kid to death.
Wow, look at the parents. They didn't try to do the right thing. Then they try to get him to flee. You mean to tell me they didn't know what they raised? Sounds like a brute to me. So when I was in elementary school, I was bullied. I didn't even know the girl. I know she was very manly, and she seemed a little rough around the edges. Well, for whatever reason, picked on me. Okay. I was a good student, not problematic. I wasn't raised to pick on other people. I was not that girl. So she just picked on me. So after school, she came again and she found me after my class. It was crazy. And she was saying little horrible things to me, and I just ignored her. Then I guess she saw the fact that I ignored her. I didn't swing. I look up again. She knows what my last period class is. And next thing I know is I'm coming out the entranceway. There she is, already waiting on me, running her mouth about me. Pushed me in my back. So I got my backpack. I got my little bag. And it was a shoulder bag, actually, not a backpack. Walking on. And she's hurling insults, just saying horrible things. Never had interaction with this whole thing. So guess what? Then she chased me. So I'm like, I'm going to run away. So I run a little bit and she's chasing me. Then I take a little break and run again. I kid you not. I wasn't taught to be a brute. So I go home and you know how your mom is like, how it was school today. I told her what happened. This girl doesn't like me and she chased me. She's saying things at me that she did push me my back one while. So my mother and I had the conversation. Bullying is nothing new. Gonna change up real quick. Once, two, I think it was 3 guys that was bullying my brother. And so my dad, I'll get back to me in a minute, never forget, went up to the school. He said, point him out. He took off from his business. He was self-employed. Point him out. Okay? And he went to the principal and explained what happened. And he made it real clear in a manly way. Either you're going to address it or I will. Either way, it's fine. So if you can't handle it, or as a parent, I will. It's time to have a conversation. And he didn't curse or anything, but he was very firm, and he just, made it clear. And that was the end of that. and you can call the police because that's gonna probably what end up happening, But he didn't make any, he didn't go like, hood. No, that wasn't his character. But I'm just gonna say my father was very firm, and he got the mess over to the principal, and the principal got it over to the kids. And he may have said, what could possibly happen if it doesn't, that he was going to protect his son at all costs. And he may have said something that was, I'm gonna label it as interesting, because I'm not I'm not gonna, I'm gonna label it as interesting. Okay. I don't need to repeat what my dad said, but I'm just gonna label it as interesting. Okay. So my father made his position real clear, and it wasn't like, now, it wasn't leave it to Beaver, Cliff Huxtable, but he made his position clear about those hooligans. And I think he convinced the principal, who was a believer. And that was that. So now back to me. Now it's my turn. I get bullied. So the girl already pushed me in my back, chased me. So I go home, tell my mom what happened. And my mother and I had a conversation. Really? Well, you have to protect yourself. And we know how we raised you, but you've got to protect yourself. And my mother advised me that I had to protect myself. She didn't say, "Are you going to go over there?" And you're going, no, 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 no. If she comes at you, you have to protect yourself. And we may have some means of protection available. I wonder what's in the garage. And I found, I'm going to call it a surprise for the bully. So now my mom and I've had the conversation, and she's right. I have to protect myself. This girl's rough. We're not used to being raised around hooligans, but hello. So I go to school. She already done came at me with her mouth. She already chased me home. Not all the way home, but chased me because we were going in a different direction. So here we are. She finna do it again. She finna do it again. So I didn't say anything. I'm just walking home, and here she comes. And she's already pushed me again in my back, the same as before. But it was kind of close. And there were a lot of kids around, and I know how that goes. So what did I do? I took off running with my bag on my shoulder. I took off running. And when I took off running, I got to a certain point. And I remember her saying to me, "Oh, I know you're scared. I bet you're running so fast." She said, "I know you're scared now. I bet you're running so. I bet your heart beating so fast. I bet your heart beating real fast. I know you're scared." I didn't have any words with her. So when I got to the distance, like I said, not a lot of kids around. I got to the distance. Matter of fact, I think it was just me and her she and I on that street. When I got to a distance, I reached in my bag and grabbed my surprise. I didn't even say anything. I was taught sometimes less is best. So she came at me. Oh, and I swung my surprise, and I swung, and I swung, and she was dodging, and I swung. I didn't have to say anything. I let my surprise in my hand do all the talking. Next thing I know, after a couple of swings, and she was moving her body around. She was moving. After a couple of swings, she started backing up. I don't even think I made contact. Yeah, she was the one running her mouth. I didn't say anything. I just pulled out my instrument and just, as I said, swing. She was moving. Swing again. I didn't say anything. I just sort of said swing. And it's probably best because it would have got her. Did my little swing. And after I swung it a couple of times, guess what happened? The bully started backing up. because she saw I had a surprise for her in my hand, and I was not playing. Mm-hmm. So after that, I went on. I had to defend myself. I took out my surprise, and I started to swing. And I'm not talking about no stick. No, it wasn't a genuine. In case my thinking that, no, never. But it was something a little bit stronger than a stick. I started to swing. Next thing I know, the bully started backing up. I didn't even have to say. I didn't even say a word. She's moving back and moving that, and I started to swing again. Next thing I know, she just took off and ran. She ran away from me. Why? Because I had to protect myself. What was I supposed to do, let her keep on this pushing me in my back? Really? So what was Carmelo supposed to do? Oh, so when Metcalf say move, you gotta move. When Metcalf says move, you gotta move. Is that right? And if you don't move, I guess he's gonna put his hands on you. I'm assuming I'm gonna move you for him. I'll move you myself. You put your hands on a person, gee, not to give him a bear hug. What was he supposed to do? So look on the screen. Have a talk with the parents. Again, let me play the video again about the high school bully. Really now? Wow. Interesting.
And then bragged about it in front of his friends. Basically, a 17-year-old football player named Taylor Ryder was at a party when one of his fellow bully friends, Dominic, suddenly stole another kid's gold chain. However, one of his kid's friends, Preston Lord, immediately demanded that Dominic return it. When Dominic refused to, a massive argument quickly broke out, and that was when the football player Taylor stepped in and simply punched Preston in the face. This instantly sparked a fight between Taylor and Preston, but since Taylor was a lot stronger, he eventually had Preston on the ground. Then, at least 7 other kids came in and just began repeatedly kicking him. Even when it was clear that Preston had been fatally injured, these attackers didn't stop and actually just began dancing on his body. It was only when the police were finally called that everyone ran away. But that still didn't stop Taylor from going on his Snapchat and texting a friend, "I got in a fight and accidentally killed a kid. I guess I'm just too strong."
I got into a fight and accidentally unalived a kid, KILD a kid. I guess I'm just too strong. Well, let's hope you got those hands in prison if that's where you land. Because you're going to need them. So you really think with a bully, you're going to have the conversation and say, hey, don't do that, stop, and look at the other heathens. Do you really think with a bully it's going to work that way? And don't forget, the parents. So much for effective parenting.
Taylor's parents found out about this incident. They quickly tried to cover up his involvement and even tried to help Taylor flee to Mexico. But luckily, 7 of the students involved in the attack, including Taylor, have just been charged with first-degree murder and will hopefully face prison time. So this high school bully just beat another kid to death.
Beat another kid to death. I'm sure he was a good boy. Sometimes you have to meet people where they are. That girl that bullied me, if I was somebody to the teacher, she probably looked at me and laughed. So I had to go ahead and have a surprise for her. Yes, my mother and I had a conversation, which I'm not going to go into detail, but we had a conversation, and it was highly effective. Kids are a lot worse now. I saw talking my time somebody's supposed to maybe what conflict resolution. He was saying, I cannot believe this Mark Anthony. I saw it on Michi X on her channel. Love Michi. And I said, is he really serious? Go tell the coach or somebody. Go tell a teacher. Is that what kids supposed to do? What's they gonna do? Half the time the teacher scared them darn self because they know some of these kids are violent. What is the teacher going to do? Many parents have called the students school about bullying their child and nothing happened. I think either the school doesn't give a damn or they really don't care. We want to try to pretend as if, oh, everybody's just friendly. No, some of these kids, again, some of these kids, they're just criminals in training. Look at this. He accidentally unalived the kid. I guess I'm just too strong. And then after that, other little heathens pitched in. Again, I was bullied. And that taught me with some people, you can't have a conversation. Sometimes you got to meet them where they are. So sometimes what they say, this ain't what you want. So this right here, she's pushing me in my back. I mean, just think after my class, this girl was on the stool. I'll never forget. It was like like a outdoors, and you got some steps and then like a stoop you can kind of sit on. She was on the stoop waiting for me. I'll never forget. She jumped down. She waiting for me. So what you want to do? Want to probably get me to the ground because I'm cute and she's ugly and she's not, and maybe try to start swinging on me and all. Go, yeah, but it worked out a little differently. I had to meet that little thing where she was, unfortunately. And after that, that was in. There was no more hitting me in my back, no more chasing. She didn't even say a word to me. So we don't want to face it that some of these kids are demonic, and you can't sit up and say, "Hey, you better stop pushing me in my back." Sometimes you might have to swing. And we don't want to face that. We want to act like these kids. Well, that right there, Metcalf. Look here. You should have stayed where you were, son. You still be here. You went over there to the tent. Who the hell are you? Are you the tent monitor? Are you the seat monitor? I guess he thought he was gonna pull the rows apart. You can't sit in this seat. You gotta be kidding me. You are a victim of your own circumstance. You did that, son. You shouldn't have walked your ass on over there. So anyway, I take that seriously. Yeah, people want to pretend like, oh, we're gonna tell a teacher. What the hell you mean tell a teacher, tell a parent? What? Who you think raising these kids? His parents didn't go, son, turn yourself in. They tried to get him to flee. Gotta save him. My son ain't going to jail. Gotta save him. People really try to pretend like these kids are good people. Misunderstand these really? These kids sometimes are like brutish animals, diabolical, deadly, violent, criminalized. The seed of poverty can come of is in any race with a mom and daddy. The seed of poverty, your mindset so evil. One steals the chain, and one person says, "Give it back." Can't give nothing back. Are you gonna put those hands? Who told you to do that? Sometimes people are who they are, and sometimes they meet a fate and end up as of late. So all these parents want to pull about, oh, what? Who told Metcalf to go over there? Austin, you should have stayed in your lane. Who make you the authority? But see, again, that sounds like to me a bully. And look what happened, a tragedy. But it didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. You don't control nobody. You can better control yourself. This didn't have to be. But hey, that's what happened when some kids, in my opinion, act as a bully. You may contribute to your own demise, and then you want to sit up here and want some sympathy, and everybody just need to go ahead and just cry. You went ahead and led to your own demise. So, for parents who are raising a kid might be a bully, you think all that's fun and it's cool. You have to be the biggest fool. This right here about this boy, it didn't have to be, but I guess you want to be a bully. Sometimes you might think you're the boss. Guess what? Sometimes being the boss can cost, and I'm out.